The Miami Grand Prix is over and F1 is now moving from America to Europe at Imola for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, which means that it is time for my preview and predictions. This is a series where I'll be previewing, and then at the end of the video I'll be giving out my early predictions for the Grand Prix. If you enjoyed the video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now, let's get straight into the video. As usual, I'll be talking about the top 5 teams later on, which is Aston Martin, Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari and Red Bull, so stick around for that. Yes, Miami is over and we have a new Grand Prix winner, which for the sport is absolutely perfect. And now F1 moves into Europe for the European leg of the season, and to start it off, it is Imola, which is going to be the first time that F1 races there since 2022, as the 2023 Grand Prix was rained off due to flooding. And guess what? There is a chance of rain yet again, and that would not be the first time, as both the 2021 and 2022 races were rain affected as well. Since the last time F1 raced at the Imola circuit, there have been a few minor alterations. These changes are not to the circuit layout, but instead to the runoff. Corners such as Acqua Minerale, the Piratella, and the tight chicane have all had gravel moved closer to the track, meaning that mistakes will be punished heavier than before. The tight chicane is where Charles Leclerc dropped it in the 2022 Grand Prix. In that race, he was able to recover. This year though, if he does the same thing, he may not be quite as lucky. For Imola, if it does rain, at least the teams will be a little bit more happier, as the circuit is typically higher downforce as opposed to Miami, so they should have a little bit more downforce and be okay to run in the conditions. The circuit features a lot of chicanes, which were introduced after the race 30 years ago, where both Ayrton Senna in the Grand Prix and Roland Ratzenberger in qualifying lost their lives. Since then, the Tamburello corner was altered and turned into a chicane, and also the Villeneuve chicane was added to the circuit. For the Grand Prix at Imola, Pirelli will be bringing a step softer tyre to Imola than they brought in 2022, and also compared to the last race at Miami, meaning that yes, it is the softest tyres in the Pirelli range, meaning that the C3 is the hard tyre, the C4 is the medium tyre, and the C5 will be the soft compound tyre. In 2022, there was a total of 25 pit stops, as most drivers went from the intermediate tyres to the mediums and did the vast majority of the race on those medium tyres. That, I think, is why Pirelli are opting to go for softer tyres this year. With the softer tyres, I think there is a chance we could see some teams try to do a two-stop using 2 sets of mediums before going to the hard tyres to end the Grand Prix. Overtaking at Imola is not the easiest, and in 2022 there was only a total of 22 on-track overtakes in the Grand Prix. However, it has to be said that the majority of the dry race didn't actually feature DRS, which didn't help when it came to overtaking. And speaking of DRS, the Imola circuit features only the one DRS zone, and that is down the long straight into Tamburello. If the race is dry and we get full use of DRS, then I do expect we will see more overtakes than what we saw in 2022. In 2022, the fastest lap in qualifying was set in Q2 by Max Verstappen, and that time was a 1:18.793. During that lap, he reached a top speed of 305 km per hour, and the fastest lap in the Grand Prix itself was a 1:18.446, and that was also set by Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. With 2 years of development and a step softer tyre, I anticipate that both of these laps will be beaten quite easily. That is, of course, if the race and qualifying are actually dry. I just want to say that if you are enjoying the video so far, then I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now though, let's get back to the video and let's talk about the top 5 teams, starting with Aston Martin. For Aston Martin, the Miami Grand Prix was a massive disappointment from them. I expected a lot more from them, but Alonso and Stroll were eliminated in Q2. Alonso did recover to points with a 9th place finish, but Lance Stroll was way down the order and finished in 17th place. For Imola, there has to be some improvement from them, especially if they do want to finish in 5th place. VCARB are improving with every single race. there is a sizable gap between them, but Aston Martin is still racing with one arm tied behind their back, as only Fernando Alonso can really compete for them. I anticipate that Imola will be better for them. I feel like they were really struggling with the tyres at Miami. We saw earlier in the year how they were a little hard on their tyres, and Miami was brutal for the tyres this year due to the heat. Imola will not be the same, as temperatures will likely be a bit lower, which should help them, but there is no doubt that they are behind the competition that are ahead of them, and there is only so much that Alonso can do. I expect we will once again only see one Aston Martin score any points. Lance Stroll's season so far has been very, very poor. It has been so poor, in fact, that Tsunoda in the VCARB is now 5 points ahead of him in the Drivers' Championship. For Mercedes, the Miami Grand Prix was a decent recovery from what was a very tricky start to the weekend, with sprint and sprint qualifying. They will be introducing some upgrades to Imola, which they desperately need if they want to get in the fight with Ferrari, McLaren and Red Bull. It needs to be significant, but I don't believe that it will be at the same level as what McLaren's upgrade was that they brought in Miami. Because of this, I don't think we will see any major changes from them. It should be a step forward, but a lot more is required. Lewis Hamilton finally got his first top 6 finish of the season in Miami, and he will be looking to improve and finish in the top 5. But Imola has not been the kindest place to him in the past, and also McLaren will be giving Piastri the full upgrade this weekend, which will probably make things a little bit more tricky for Mercedes. For McLaren, Miami was a major breakthrough race, as finally Lando Norris won his first Grand Prix, and McLaren looked on it all weekend long. In sprint qualifying, Lando had the pace for pole position on the medium tyres, but it fell away on softs. In the main Grand Prix, it has to be said Lando had the pace. Yes, he was a fair bit behind, but that's because of a difficult qualifying session where he started the race down in 9th place. But even before Max Verstappen made his mistake, Lando Norris had solid pace and was just a little bit faster than Verstappen from lap 19 onwards, and he was setting fastest laps on the old medium tyres, showing just how far the McLaren team have come. This weekend, it will be interesting to see if McLaren can keep the pace up. Miami was a little weird with the tyres, but Imola should be more of a normal weekend. If they can keep the pace up, and I think that they can, then we really could see someone take the fight to Max Verstappen. For his teammate Oscar Piastri, he was having a very good race at Miami. That was, of course, until he had contact with Carlos Sainz. This weekend, Piastri will be getting the full upgrade as opposed to only half of it. And with that, we should now see McLaren take the fight really to Ferrari and Red Bull. And I think it's going to be very, very exciting. For Ferrari, they will be hoping that an upgrade at Imola can revitalise their season, as right now they are starting to fall behind McLaren in terms of pace. They are still ahead in the standings, and they are planning a major upgrade similar to McLaren, so for them it will be all about hoping that they can deliver similar results. Charles Leclerc had a good race in Miami, but he was stuck when Oscar Piastri managed to overtake him on track, but his pace was good. Just not as good as Lando Norris or Max Verstappen's. Carlos Sainz, however, had a bit more of a difficult race, and he started to get aggressive as he was being frustrated by Piastri. Ferrari and the Tifosi will be out in force at Imola to see if the upgraded car can match McLaren and bring them towards the mighty Red Bull and Max Verstappen. And finally, for Red Bull, they were defeated at Miami, and Max Verstappen was not really as dominant as he usually is. We usually expect to see Red Bull run off into the distance with Verstappen, but that was not the case in that race, as Piastri, Leclerc and Sainz were in a way keeping up with Verstappen even before he had his off-track moment. I have a feeling that this was more circuit specific, however it does show that Red Bull are potentially a little bit more vulnerable to the competition this year compared to last year. Going into Imola, they will be looking to bounce back, and they will be thankful that Imola is a normal weekend and not a sprint weekend. Once again, when Red Bull were looking a little bit more vulnerable, like we saw in Australia, Sergio Perez was nowhere to be seen, and for Red Bull this will be an issue, especially if Ferrari and McLaren are in a position to finally start getting into the mix with them. Perez started off strong, but China and Miami were not great results really for him. I'm not sure he will be in the mix for the podium if McLaren and Ferrari are now in a stronger position. So with that in mind then, what are my early predictions for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix? Well, I think the top midfield team and midfield driver will be Yuki Tsunoda in the VCARB, as VCARB are continuing to impress and get stronger with every single race. And also, VCARB have done a lot of testing at Imola in the past. That's typically where they do a lot of their filming days. But what about now pole position in the top 5? Well, for pole position, I'm actually going to shake it up a little bit and go with something a little bit different to the usual and say Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari will get pole position with his upgraded car. But what about the top 5 for the Grand Prix? Well, in P5, I'm going to go for Oscar Piastri in the McLaren. P4 will be Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. P3 will be Lando Norris in the McLaren. P2 will be Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. And yes, I know it's a bit of a boring answer, especially when I gave Leclerc pole position, but I'm going to go for Max Verstappen to bounce back and win the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. But I don't think it will be a dominant performance by him. But those are my thoughts. The question is, what do you guys think will happen? In the comment section down below, let me know. And as always, comment, leave a like, and subscribe for more F1 content. Thank you all so much for watching.